The right question is a few questions down the road. Point to note, do not avoid your disappointments. Face them head on, and when they come, be disappointed.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, and welcome again. Welcome to the Unlearn Show with Jamie and Fritz, the show where we undefine, unlimit, unlearn, and rethink our behaviors, our thought processes, previously held notions, idea structures that we considered or held closely that may need to be rethought or rethink. We want to first unlearn them. This is the Unlearn Show. Thanks for being with us. We're here with Dr. Fritz Pinnock. Dr. Pinnock, how are you doing, sir?
Jamie, Fritz, I'm good.
So let's look a little bit on leaving room for disappointment. How do you think about that?
Well, when you say that, my mind went to a strange point. Well, maybe not strange, but it goes to the frame of mind, either creative or uncreative. There's a little saying which I came across some time ago. I don't know, it just jumped back at me. It says that how it goes again, the uncreative mind can spot the wrong answer, but it takes a creative mind to spot the wrong question. So I'm seeing sometimes we start with questions and sometimes we are seeking for answers. But when we can reframe a situation to put a bigger question, we can get a different answer than when we're looking for an answer in a limited question. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I don't know why I go there.
No, I like that idea. I like that idea. It's Einstein who said that if he had an hour to solve the problems of humanity, he would spend 55 minutes trying to find the right question and 5 minutes solving it.
Right.
We oftentimes hear that there's no bad questions, but that's garbage. The right question is a few questions down the road.
That's correct, and that's profound.
Disappointment. What's your view on disappointment within a team? How do you manage it?
Wow. Disappointment is key to keeping someone grounded, keeping us in tune with the fact that we do not control the process. Disappointment, because many times we plan an outcome rather than work with the process where outcome changes. And it takes me back, Jamie, to 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐻𝐿 chapter 3 in the Bible. It talks about 14 seasons, 14 pairs of seasons, which are 28 seasons in total. It talks about a time to be born and a time to die. And it lists opposites. So life takes us through those seasons. And that's the reality. We like to stay with the 14 positive. But the negatives are also important in that they help us to appreciate the next positive. So disappointments, they are part of the journey. They are necessary. But they're hard to take. But when we can look and see that disappointments are part of what brings us into our destiny, disappointments lead us to, as it were, overcome. Well, out of disappointments, we learn our vulnerability. Out of disappointments and what we term failures, we develop flexibility and adaptability, which are important in how to pivot in life.
Within a team, if you're disappointed within a team, and let's say that you have a team member and you're working on a project together, and you're faced with disappointment, let down, a complete shutout, and you're feeling really disappointed in the person or in the person's actions, how do you go about resolving that?
That's a very good question. And as human beings, we're emotional beings. And I'm just thinking that if there are 3 members in that team, maybe you react differently with each of them depending on the relationship that you have. But the first thing when disappointment comes is to be goal-oriented, because disappointments sometimes are like a pothole in a road. When you hit a pothole, it can swing in a direction, which maybe take you off course. So it's always important to place the big picture in mind, because disappointments bring hurts, they bring pain, they bring different emotions that can distract you from the overall process. So while you process disappointment, it's always good to put it in a bigger perspective, because many times we like to plan life and exclude disappointments. But we had this discussion where we started. When Jesus, in selecting his team, he placed so-called enemies on his team. because one of the significant person he placed on his team was Judas.
Mm-hmm.
And he put Judas in charge of the money. He had an executive position.
Right.
But Judas was so important to Jesus fulfilling his mission. It's easy sometimes to plan a sweet spot, but that sweet spot is only a pit stop in the journey and can take us off destination course. In that Judas was so important to Jesus, accomplishing his mission. When Judas came to kiss him, he said, "Friend, do what you must do." Because Jesus appreciated it was a part of the process. And he knew, and yet still he was teaching us through his example that we have to embrace our Judas. We have to see our Judas in a bigger picture, that they are important for our destination. Because many times we like to kill the Judas or get rid of them. And when we do that, it's tantamount to aborting our purpose and our mission. So the painful part of the process in that carries the greatest learning at times. That's the part that keeps us humble. That's the part that keeps us grounded. That's the part that reminds us that the whole process is bigger than us, which if we go back to the Bible said, all things work together for good.
For the good.
That all things mean the disappointment.
How do we manage ourselves to make that facilitation for that disappointment when it comes? Because it's not a matter of if, it's when it comes. Even our most beloved disappoint us. The only person that probably won't disappoint us is Jesus. Right? But every human being that we are involved with, or whether it's an organization, human being, whatever it is, they will disappoint us if the relationship is long enough. How do we leave that room? How do we create that mental space for that disappointment when it comes?
And that's very deep, Jamie. As you rightly said, just go back. And I'm happy to use that example. It's so profound and it's so timely and apt. You talk about between Judas' betrayal, Peter's denial, and Thomas doubting. Between those three, we get a mix of different emotions that we have to manage, but yet keep the big picture. Jesus did not treat Judas any less. He washed his feet and wiped it just the same, because the part of the process was important. With Peter, when he asked Peter 3 times, "Lovest these more than me?" Asked Peter if he loved him. Peter said, "Yes, Lord, you know everything." And Jesus is able to tell him, before the cock rooster crows 3 times, you'll deny me. Before the rooster crows 3 times, you'll deny me 3 times. Then for Thomas, he looked beyond the doubt and asked Thomas to put his hands in his side. It takes a different level. It's not something easy. It goes beyond the human spirit. It goes beyond the human soul to get into this deeper level, which is beyond our natural feelings, how to manage these. But it's such an important space that if we can manage these appropriately, because many of us abort our purpose by not properly reacting or managing the betrayal, the denial, and the doubting.
Wow, I'm stunned by that. And again, this is wonderful. What's coming out for me is that first thing is that Jesus approached the disappointment head on.
Yes.
Never run, never try and hide, never try and sidetrack it or push it to the side.
Yes.
He approached the disappointment head on.
Head on.
It is important that when the disappointment comes, that we are disappointed.
Wow. I love that.
Because it is within that feeling, that emotion, that disappointed space that it fuels us to the next level.
Wow.
Right? For example, when Jesus and Peter and the denial, right? Jesus gave Peter the chance to deny him. So for example, he could have completely said to Peter before, from the first up, right? Say to Peter, this is what's going to happen, right? They're going to ask you and you're going to tell them that, he could have sort of avoided that disappointment. Point to note, do not avoid your disappointments.
Wow, that's deep, Jamie. And that is the lesson. Yes. Do not avoid. Wow.
Do not avoid your disappointments. Face them head on. And when they come, be disappointed.
Yes.
Now, it is when you are able to, and I'm reflecting on how I felt.
Yes.
When I was by myself after we weren't having our calls for various reasons. And I felt truly disappointed and hurt. And I remember sitting in this very chair and sort of reflecting. No, I had to tell you. I remember how I felt during the process, while
Mhm.
reflecting, and after we had our conversation.
Wow. Yes.
No, let me say this. When during the process I was disappointed because I truly care and I know
Yes.
I care about our relationship. While reflecting, I was reminded that it's not all about me. How you behave in this partnership or this relationship truly affects me.
Mhm.
Therefore, if I should invert that, how I behave truly
Yes.
affects you
Yes.
because I understand that we share this relationship together.
Yes.
So it is within that disappointment that I understood that my love had to be greater for you.
Wow. Wow.
So I
Wow.
learned within that if I am feeling like this, I never want you to feel like this. Therefore, I had to be a better person. Therefore, I got one up within that. I had to level up even within that
Wow.
disappointment.
Jamie, that is profound, and that is a lesson that Jesus wants to teach us out of these experiences that many times we miss because we walk away with the eye perspective that we miss the bigger picture. And what you're saying, Jamie, about that leveling up was and reflecting on what Joseph did when his brothers even let him down.
Understanding our circle of competence.
Yes, yes, that's a good summary.
You know, and we are competent and where we're not.
Yes.
You know, life is a continuous journey of learning and
Mm.
unlearning and relearning and rethinking.
Yes.
And you know, just going through the motions of trying to learn as much as we can, or just to keep learning things deeper. You kind of realize that you'll never really learn the vast majority of what is out there to be learned, but what you will hopefully learn is get a better idea of what you are competent in and where that circle lies, and to kind of realize that your circle is smaller than what you actually think.
Wow. Jamie, and that is profound. That is profound. Continue.
It's sort of the goal is to sort of be able to define with fair amount of accuracy your circle of competence. That is what a learned or a learning mind is. Understanding what they don't understand, to apply that principle,
Wow.
that mental
Circle of
model
competence.
to learning. So it is sort of going after knowing not what you know, but what you don't know. So to be able to recognize that if you want to think about it from that person using the inversion principle.
Wow.
Mm.
Jamie, that is deep, because let's go back to a race, a relay. Many times we see a relay, we see the runners. But in managing a relay is not necessarily about the runners, about the baton.
Right. Absolutely.
What wins a relay is the baton.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the fastest runners, but if they don't go through that tape with the baton, they are failed.
Right.
So one of the inversion, to invert the principle, focus on the baton, not the runners.
To how success is can be misleading, and what real success is, if you want to define it, is success over time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not success in time, it's just over time, right? So it's over a long period of time. I want to come back though to the turtle and the turtle and the hare.
Yes, or the rabbit, whichever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or the rabbit. And the funny thing though is it's a strategy involved with the turtle. You don't need much water. The turtle don't need much water to win that race. 10% of the field, the playing ground, the track can be deep water, and the turtle would win the race.
Yes. Yes.
So the turtle can say, look, you will destroy me for 90% of the race, but I just want this 10% to be water. And the turtle would probably win the race
Yes. Yes.
because the rabbit can't swim.
Delayed gratification. Because when we can see ourselves that we don't possess all the competence, in a team is best with situational leadership. You allow the person with the strongest competence for that portion of the race to take charge. So the turtle can be the leader, despite being in charge of only 10% of the race. But it's to know when to make that switch, when to say, you are better at this, as you said, the 90%. And the 10%, I'll put in my 10%. But together, we have the, I'm sorry, just a moment. Hey, Karen, can I call you back? Just doing a podcast. Call you right back, yeah? Call you back when I finish. Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's an interesting point. But many times what comes with it is that people feel that I may be termed a leader. I feel I have to do the 90%, despite
Mm.
I have only 10% of the course that we are racing on.
Right.
And it changes from race to race because it depends on the situation of the race and not on the position that you think I'm the leader, so I have to do I have the option just to do but because I'm the leader, I'm going to do it. Is to know that, hey, I need to step back. That's a deep point you made there, Jim.
It's such a wonderful evening to have this discussion. I want to thank you for staying with us on that note. As we sort of recap the highlights from today, we have realized that leaving room for disappointment or disappointments are extremely important. Being able to face them head on, manage our own emotions, be disappointed when the disappointment comes, examine and reflect on that disappointment, use that disappointment to remove ourselves and to think about the process or the team and level up within the disappointment. But don't forget to communicate that. Don't forget to communicate it after. It's disappointments that keeps us grounded. Like Fritz said, it's disappointments that prepares us for the next step, the next leg, and help us to appreciate the next leg or the next step. You know, we want to thank you for being with us and what we have learned and unlearned today. Please rethink it throughout the week. As we say, thanks for being with Jamie and Fritz on the Unlearn Show. Have a good one and blessings.